Thank you.
Okay, so let's have a conversation about this night in October. And I want to make sure Hugh's ready. You're good, Hugh?
I'm
You still
good.
need some time?
Yeah.
You're okay?
Yeah.
Your light's where you want it?
Pardon me?
You want your light like that?
It's fine.
Okay. All right. Okay, so I saw the video.
Okay.
And I come
There's
into
actually
it.
two videos.
Okay,
Yeah, one at the car dealership and one from one of our police cars I got.
okay.
Mhm.
The video that I see starts, what I'm assuming is pretty late in the action. So I want to start from the beginning. It starts after the SUV has stopped and he is getting out of the car, or the truck has stopped and he's getting out. So I'm interested in what led up to that point. So let's start with the beginning of this call and what happened on it.
Okay, I'm out on the street and working with my guys. We're having a special initiative about things like burglaries and auto theft and that sort of thing. And so it's late, like 2 a.m. I would say, approximately, I'm not sure, around 2 a.m. And one of our guys calls out a chase, 1080, that's the code for it. I'm in the parking lot of a car dealership, checking buildings and the cars, that sort of thing, what I'm out there to do. And when I hear that 1080 call go out on 301 northbound, I come out on the 301, not knowing exactly where it is. I pull out on the 301, move over to probably the far left lane, one of the faster lanes. And I'm up to about, starting to accelerate when a large SUV goes by me with no headlights on, what I estimate to be about 90 miles an hour. So I realized that's the car that the officer called out, the chase. So I turn on my lights and emergency equipment and start after it. So we're hitting northbound on 301, and we get up to Acton Lane, which is off on my right, and I recall just basically turning onto that road. He's in front of me. He won't stop. I'm on his left. At some point, he gets up to, I actually ran on two concrete curbs and blew my tires out. Well, he gets up a little ways further, and he turns into the parking lot of the car dealership that he's on our right. So eventually, I get out of my car, come around the back of my car, into the parking lot. He sees me. I get him stopped, and at that point, I pull him out of the car.
Let me back up just a little bit. At any point, did your vehicle ram his vehicle or try to ram his vehicle?
Yes. What happened was when we turned on the Acton Lane, it's sort of a thin roadway there, and I'm still trying to get him to stop, and he runs into me. When he runs into me, I see one of the things I saw as I'm alongside him is headlights coming at me, and I'm thinking he's going to hit this person head on. So at this point, after he runs into me, I'm trying to force him over to the shoulder of the road. His car is bigger, his vehicle is much bigger than me. So then my tires are blown out, and I come to a stop, but now he can't go any further because of the cars in front of him blocking his place, and he turns into the car dealership and sort of like button hooks around, coming back as if to try to escape.
Were your lights on?
Yes.
And your siren was on?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So now you all are in the parking lot.
Right.
And then what happens next?
Pretty simple. He sees me, and I'm blocking his view. I pull him out of the car. He stops, puts his hands up. I pull him out of the car. I pull him down to the ground, and essentially he's stopped and detained.
And so initially it's you there by yourself. Well, no. At this point, this is where the video picks up. So I'm seeing one car arrives. He's arriving late, though. So you were there, but how many other people were there with you at that point when you approached the vehicle?
Actually, my focus is on him, and as I pull him out of the car, that's my focus because of the danger element, of course. I don't know why he's running other than he is. I don't know what he did, if he did anything, and I don't know if he's got any weapons. So that's my focus. And at some point, I did feel the other presence of other officers. I think one to my right, but I really can't say. I didn't really pay. That wasn't my focus. You don't want to be turning your head, your eyes away from whoever you're dealing with.
Okay, so you get him onto the ground. What happens next?
Somebody handcuffs him. I'm not sure whether it's exactly who it was. I mean, I don't even recall if I handcuffed him. I don't think I did. I think somebody else handcuffed him. They got there pretty quick.
So let me ask you, because I've never experienced this, thank goodness, where this has had to happen to me. But what I see, I have been pulled over and an officer was approaching me to ask for a registration and, license, etc. And I know that sometimes they walk with their weapons drawn, just to make sure, is this somebody who's going to do something to me, or whatever is what I'm assuming it is. I don't know if that's proper procedure or not, but I had that happen to me once. In this instance, did you approach the vehicle with your weapon drawn, or did you approach it with bare hands? Because I'm trying to figure out how to get from here to
I had my gun drawn. That's why he stopped.
And so when you came up on the side, you still had your weapon in your hand then?
Yes.
Okay. And when you pulled him out, the weapon was still in your hand?
Yes. I pulled him out with one hand, with my gun like back here, and down to the ground he went.
So at any point before he was getting out of the vehicle, did you identify yourself? Did you tell him who you were?
No. I'm standing there in full uniform.
Okay.
Just what I'm wearing right now. Exactly. This is the only thing I ever wear. I probably had a coat on. If I had a coat on, I had a badge, I wear my name tag as well.
Okay. Did you give him any orders before, did you open the door, or did he open the door?
I opened the door.
You opened the door. Did you give him any orders at that point? Put your hands up, or, Charles County Sheriff's Office?
As I recall, he had his hands up when I was pointing the gun at him. So he has his hands up, I pull the door open and pull him out.
Now, why pull him out? If his hands are up, why pull him out?
Well, it's just what you do. I mean, I don't know if he's had any weapons near him, on the seat, under the floorboard, but removing him from the vehicle, it becomes a safety factor there. So.
Now, why not ask him, sir, step out of your vehicle?
All his actions leading up to this determines what I do, and based on what his actions were, this wasn't a regular traffic stop, as you can imagine. He's driving 90 miles an hour. He will not stop. There's some reason why he's doing this. He has no headlights on. He's endangering other people for whatever reason that he's doing so.
Now, this is the part that I don't know about, so I want to discuss this. The feeling was, this is, what was it? Were you thinking this is a dangerous guy? This is this could have been a speeder with loud music, but you're thinking that's not what this is. This is something more.
Quite frankly, I don't know. Usually, that time of night, you're probably dealing with somebody with alcohol. So I really didn't know. I just didn't know. All I know that his behavior prior to me pulling him out of the car indicated that there's something going on with this guy. I'm not sure what it is. So it was a routine. It wasn't anything that I haven't done hundreds and hundreds of times in my career. Although I'm 61 years old, I was kind of thinking back, is this what I really want to be doing at 61? But I wasn't out there for that purpose. I was out there for some other purpose. But I'm a cop. When you see someone, we've all seen people drive down the road and make us think, where is a cop? Well, there was one. It was me. So I just took the action that anyone else would normally do as a police officer.
Okay. So let's talk about what happens next. He's on the ground. Another police officer handcuffs him.
Someone handcuffs him. Yes.
Now, it's at this point, and I want to make sure that I have the terminology correct, because I was told that you all are both a sheriff's department and a police department.
We are.
Should I be referring to them as deputies?
Yes, that would be fine.
Okay, great. So one of the deputies is handcuffing him. Sometime around this point, I see you walk toward the camera and turn. So, and you would agree, that's you I'm seeing walking toward the camera, and you kind of sit next to another guy who's or stand next to another guy who's a little larger at that point in the video.
Yes,
Okay.
if you say so. I don't really have that recollection. If you say I did, then I did.
Okay, okay. And then I don't know, you walk out of frame and you come back into frame, and this is when we get into this goes to this guy's allegations. After speaking with him and his attorney, what they were saying is that after he was on the ground and after he was handcuffed, that he was hit, that he was kicked one time, and that someone tried to hit him from the back. He was thinking that they were aiming for his genitalia. And he left the scene with what he described as a large gash. We have a picture of him with a large gash on the side of his face. What happened? Where did that come from?
No one hit him. As far as I know, no one hit him. And he was pulled from the vehicle. I didn't realize that he had cut his face, and I didn't know how he had cut his face until one of the other officers told me that they clearly saw him go down to the ground, and that's when he got the cut on his face. Later on, I would discover on the audio portion of the tape, that he acknowledged that he hit his face on the ground and he wanted to be taken to the hospital. So that pretty much verified what one of the other officers told me, that he hit his face when he was pulled out of the vehicle.
So you had mentioned earlier that this is something that you've had to do before. How often? I mean, could you put, if you say, you know, out of traffic stops, let's just say out of 10 traffic stops, how many start with, I mean, in high speed, this kind of deal? Somebody speeding down 301. Everybody loves to speed down 301. I hate 301 personally. But so coming down 301, how many people, I mean, would you say out of 10 are pulled out and thrown onto the ground?
I couldn't give you that number. All I could tell you is 8 years in narcotics, I pulled a lot of people out of the vehicles. Working patrol for 15 or 18 or 15 years, whatever I work patrol, I've arrested a lot of drunks, and a lot of times you have to pull them out of the vehicle. Not nearly as much as you do with narcotics people, but with drunks, you know, some of them you have to pull out of there. They're uncooperative. They want to fight, all those sorts of things. You don't want to go in that situation with a drunk driver because you want to do a field sobriety and make sure that you're dealing with. So most people are cooperative, but you have some. Whenever you have a chase, it just changes the situation a little. Because you don't know why unless you know why you're chasing them. You know, I didn't really know what the situation was. Why is he running? Why is he driving with no lights on? Why is he behaving like that? I had no idea.
Would you say that you have a quick temper?
Would I have a quick temper? No, I wouldn't say that I have a quick temper. Not at all. But as anyone knows in law enforcement, those situations are volatile. Okay, I mean, your emotions run high. A lot of times officers get themselves in trouble, but this was a routine. Even though what he did from the time he was pulled from the vehicle, it just became a routine. I mean, he was mouthy, he was cursing, he was acting like he had no sense, and you know, I attributed that to drinking and or drugs or whatever. So it wasn't any more than it was. Like I said, in reflection, it's the fact that I'm thinking, I'm 61 years old, I'm still out here doing this. Do I need to be doing this? It wasn't what I wanted to be doing, but, you know, take it as it comes.
Would you change anything about that night?
I stayed home in bed.
Anything about what happened, I mean, with the deputies and how that all unfolded?
Well, there was one thing that was disturbing to me. One of our officers, the one you mentioned, sat on the hood of the car. I didn't really capture that in my brain, what was going on, until what piqued my interest about looking at the video was the fact that the state's attorney's office, the state's attorney and his investigator, the next day became very interested in this, which is highly unusual. So that piqued my interest. What are they after? What are they looking for? So I came down to whoever had the video, and I don't normally look at those videos. We have them all the time, but I wanted to see what was going on, and then that's when I saw the officer sitting on the hood of the car, and I realized it gave a bad impression. It was a bad decision, and created some, you know, as if something was to be covered up when that wasn't the case. So as a result of that, after I pulled my head out of the ceiling and realized how bad it made me look, I knew that was the wrong thing for him to do. So took the appropriate action. I can guarantee he'll never do that again. He was disciplined.
I also hear the audio in the tape where, and I believe it was that same deputy, or it could have been someone else, who says, "Watch the camera, boss, watch the camera." And I'm assuming that he's referring to you. What?
Well, I'm not sure, because I listened to that one time, and this occurred back in October, and it's kind of ironic that it's just coming up before election time. But at any rate, I don't recall him, he's never called me boss in his life, so if that's what he said, or maybe it's a misunderstanding, maybe you want to listen to it again. But my understanding, he did say, watch the camera. And that goes to what I was mentioning earlier about these things can be volatile. But this guy was a non-factor. I mean, you know when you're dealing with somebody dangerous and whatever. Once you pulled him, he was pulled out of the car. It was just a routine situation. It wasn't, nobody had to be fear their life for that at that point. So.
These were some of your highest ranking officers, 2 captains who were there on the scene.
Yes, there, including myself, there were 2 captains, a lieutenant, sergeant, and the officer, the patrol officer that actually took the guy into custody that was driving, speeding, drunk driving, what we considered and whatnot. And I don't know if you know or are aware, we're puzzled why all the charges were dropped. We're all puzzled by that.
You all wanted to see him convicted?
Absolutely.
And for what?
For what he was doing, drinking and driving.
Was he tested? Was he tested?
He refused to take a test. Yeah, he refused to take the breathalyzer test. So, I mean, there's other observations. It's his general driving, the odor of alcoholic beverage on his breath, which one of the officers recognized. I don't recall that because I sort of took a step back approach once he was, in custody. But that officer dealt with him. The fact that how he behaved when he was taken to the hospital, refusing treatment, acting disorderly, seeing movements, just his general movements. The officer that charged him, a very experienced officer, believed he was under the influence. But all those charges were dropped, and it's puzzling why that occurred.
So I talked with him yesterday. You all are almost the same size. He's maybe a little bit smaller than you, maybe a little bit shorter.
I remember him being sort of a thin guy.
Yeah, he's a thin guy. He's a Marine vet, did a couple of tours of duty in service for his country. When you hear that now in retrospect and hear that this is someone who has dedicated his life to serving the country, what are your thoughts then? I mean, because it seems to me that you all are pretty similar in that you are, giving service. Does it not matter? In retrospect, does it think, I just want to know, what is your impression when you hear that?
Well, I commend him for serving our country, as you can imagine. And that doesn't change his behavior. But at the same time, I recognize people make mistakes. And I'm not mad at him. I'm not mad at any person. So it's just unfortunate that he decided to behave like that because he put people's lives in jeopardy, to include himself. So I potentially could have saved his life. So we'll never know that, of course. I mean, I know of cases. I know of a sheriff that followed a person down the road and called him out driving and drinking and driving, and then turned off and went home, and that person went on up the road and hit a tree and killed themselves. So these things can happen. I mean, like I said, I just did what I needed to do. I wasn't joking when I said I'd like to have been home in bed, but this is what I do. I'm committed to what I do, and I didn't do anything wrong here. I did exactly what I was supposed to do. Our officer made a mistake. He knows he made a mistake, and as I said, you can bet your butt he'll never do that again. And I dealt with him. So.
And why do you think he did that? Why do you think his impulse was to let me go and sit here in front of the camera?
I don't know why he did that. It was so not necessary. And you said you saw the video. It was really at the conclusion of the thing. I didn't really know. Like I said, I didn't really remember all this stuff because it was a routine situation to me. But later on, when I saw it in my recollection, and I haven't seen it for months, what was the need to do that? There was no need, and he recognizes he did a dumb thing.
Do you feel like maybe you forgot there was a camera there? Because it sounded like he felt like maybe.
I guess the easiest thing for me to say is it didn't matter whether there's a camera or not. I just do the right thing, and if I have to protect myself or whatever, I will, and whatever I need to do. So it really doesn't change. I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing that he warns people that the camera's on because, as I said, in those situations, those are volatile situations, and you just want to, I think in that camera he also said, put him in the car, put him in the car. I've seen this many times here. I'm the sheriff. I'm not necessarily going to be the one to take him to the station, but he's saying, put him in the car. Somebody pick him up and put him in the car. What's the problem here? But nobody really knew who was going to take the arrest. You follow me? So that was that point. But I can't say what is in his head. All I know that is it made the situation look like it was more than what it was, and that's unnecessary. And as I said, for the third time, I dealt with him. He's been disciplined.
Okay. I have to ask you for the record, did you kick Jason Mouse?
No, and nor did anyone else.
Did you punch Jason Mouse?
No, not at all, and no one else did, to my best of what I saw.
But you pulled him out of the vehicle?
Yes,
onto
I did.
the ground?
Yes, I did.
Okay. So let me just ask you this because I'm not used to the Charles County Sheriff's Department. I can't remember the last time I saw a chief in Prince George's or in DC or a sheriff in Prince George's or, you know, out on the field doing this kind of work, and you're still doing it.
Yeah.
Do you do this often? Are you out in the community often, and why? Why not be in the office doing administrative kind of stuff and kind of managing and overseeing? Why still be out there?
It's me. It's what I do. It's what I enjoy, and I don't spend a lot of time out there, but I try to convey to our officers that I've done what you do. I can still do what you do, and there are some other sheriffs. Mike Lewis over in Wycomico, big drug bust guy, you know, constantly out there with his guys. Reminds me of the state police. I'm trying to think of one of the Maryland State Troops police superintendents was known for making arrests, did make an arrest. So some of our guys get out there. Many of our guys, the Sheriff of Calvert County is frequently known to make traffic stops. Maybe he just hadn't run into something like I recently ran into. So it's not uncommon.
I was saying I saw that picture of you out there, and I just thought that that was just amazing. History, you've been with this department for a long time.
Yes, I've had a break in service, but I've been here over 30 years.
I imagine that there is an extraordinary amount of love and dedication for what you do. I mean, and as you said, 61. It's a long time to do it.
Yeah.
And is their passion still there? Is there still?
Yes, absolutely. We have a good county. We have a safe county. We have such a low rate of violence. It's just a good place to live. That's why a lot of folks are moving here because of good schools and safety. So it's a good place to live. It really is. And, you know, as I said earlier, I got nothing against this fellow, and it's commendable. My daughter is in the military. My son-in-law just retired from the military. I have the utmost respect for the military. And that doesn't change my feelings about him. He's a young guy. Young people make mistakes. I made them when I was young, and I try not to make them now. So.
How's your vehicle now?
Not being driven.
Oh, really?
I drove an older car. I had 30-some thousand miles on it. It was an old car. It really wasn't one that was really, well, as a matter of fact, we wouldn't give it to one of our officers that actually does police work on a full-time basis. That's why I was driving it. So I was, you know, a car, no big deal.
Anything else you want to add?
No, I think we pretty much covered it.
Okay, let me make sure I asked. I have another question. When would you say, when is it necessary to be violent? If in this night, in this incident, if you didn't hit this young man, if you didn't kick this young man, when would that be appropriate? Is it ever appropriate?
Well, as you saw him, he had one little, it's a small cut right here on his eye where your skin meets your, whatever you call it, your eye socket. That's prone to bleed. It's, you know, force hitting the ground would certainly open a cut there, especially with his weight coming down, no matter how much he weighs. And, you know, you use violence when it's necessary to protect yourself or to combat violence. So we have a very low rate of violence here. Not violence, that's not the word I'm looking for. We have a very low number of excessive force complaints, very low, probably 10 on an average each year. So we're not known for that, but at the same time, you know, we deal with a lot of dangerous people. We catch a lot of people doing dangerous and bad things. So, you know, you have to, safety is paramount, so you have to be careful.
I asked the Mouse family after I spoke with Jason and his parents, because, you know, and I said it exactly this way, Charles County isn't a small town, but it has a small town feel, and it has some small town tendencies to it. And I asked them, were they afraid of possibility of retribution? Folks who support you having a problem with them saying that they have a problem with something that happened that evening. Do you feel like they have any reason to feel?
Absolutely not. I'd be happy for them to come by here and talk to us. Come by, Jason can come by and see me. I mean, as I told you, I respect him because he served his country. So, I mean, that's a feather in his cap as far as I'm concerned. As I said, not to be redundant, but I'm not mad at any person, let alone him. You know, I forgot that, you know, he made some bad choices and bad decisions last night. It looks like to me, he made out pretty good. I mean, he got a little cut on his head, but the state's attorney dropped all the charges against him. So that means only thing he's going to have to do is probably pay his attorney. But, you know, he made out pretty good, I think, under the circumstances. Nowadays, I get cuts like that on the farm every other day.
The state's attorney made the wrong decision.
Absolutely, he did. Absolutely did. It benefited Jason Miles, but it sends a wrong message. You know, I don't know why that was was done, but he's got some motive for what he did. So.
You think there's someone dangerous on the streets now?
No.
Would you say that?
No, not Jason Miles. I don't think he's dangerous at all. But the situation presented itself as being very dangerous at the beginning. Within a few minutes, you realize that it wasn't.
Would you say you were frustrated with him after not stopping?
No, I've done it so many times. It wasn't frustration. It was the fact that he's driving in the direction of one of my guys or somebody else coming in another direction. He's not stopping. He doesn't have any headlights on. He's acting, in an aggressive manner. I mean, he needs to be stopped. All he has to do is stop. He just didn't do it. If he obeys the law, if he does the right thing, then we have a different kind of traffic stop if he's driving with no lights on and just speeding, but he won't stop.
There's something you just said that reminded me of something that he said. He said that he thought that he was in a traffic accident. That's how he put it. He said that when he pulled into that parking lot, it was the safest place for him to stop. And it was shortly after that he realized this wasn't a traffic accident. These are officers coming for me. But he's saying he didn't know that initially, that he didn't see any lights, he didn't hear any sirens.
We believe he's drunk. And when you're drunk, your memory is not exactly as clear as when you aren't. And unfortunately, fortunately, all of us were not drinking, and he was. So I know what he may think and what he may believe, but he acknowledged right on the tape that he hit his eye when he went down to the ground. And as I mentioned earlier to you, the lieutenant said that he saw that happen. He knew that's how he got the cut. So I remember him screaming, my eye. I remember him. And I'm thinking, you got a little cut on your eyebrow there. What's the big deal? So, yeah.
All right, you're good. Let's get our 2 shots and our cutaways.
Sure.
I want to get the whole room.
Okay.
Okay? We're good?
Yep.
Okay.